Hi, second graders. Today we are working on Unit 5 Skills, Lesson number 9. For our learning targets, what will we be able to accomplish by the end of our lesson? We're going to be practicing reading contraction words. We will be able to identify the subject and predicate in a sentence. We've been working on this for a little while now. And we will also be reading the story called The Boat Trip, which is our next story in Sir Gus today. We're going to review contractions, something that you learned about in first grade, and we've touched a little bit on second grade, but not a whole bunch. How can you tell a word becomes a contraction? Think about what clues do contractions have? A contraction is a new word made up of two words with certain letters that are left out and an apostrophe inserted in place of the letters. Now, I like to take my small word and mush them together. But when they get mushed together, a couple of the letters disappear and an apostrophe is put in its place. I'm going to show you some words and we're going to read them out loud. Now, some of them are contractions and some of them are words that make up contractions. Repeat the word after me. Can't. Is not. Aren't. Could not, wouldn't, will not, cannot, isn't, are not, couldn't, would not, won't. Now let's match the word pair to the correct contraction that it fits with. We have silver tags and orange tags. Each silver tag has an orange match. The first one says can't. What two words make up the contraction for can't? Is it are not, cannot, or is not? I'm sure you see the beginning that says can before apostrophe T, and you can tell which one it matches because cannot begins with can also. You could say, you cannot have any more candy. You could also say, you can't have any more candy. That's the same match. We have isn't. Does isn't belong with are not or is not? Is not. Very good. And then aren't goes with are not. What letter is replaced by the apostrophe in all three of these contractions? The O, very good, the O. How about on this page? We have couldn't, wouldn't, won't, and we have would not, could not, will not. If you've read Green Eggs and Ham, this sounds a little bit like that. Couldn't matches could not. How about wouldn't? Does wouldn't go with would not or will not? You can look at that beginning to help. Good. Would not. And then won't. Won't is a tricky contraction. You have to think about the meaning. So you could say, I won't go to school today because I'm sick. Has the same meaning as I will not go to school today because I'm sick. All right. We are also going to go back and review subjects and predicates in sentences. Now remember, subjects are who or what the sentence is about. And a predicate is what's going on in the sentence. What is the subject doing? So we have the sentence, Beth ate the pie. What's the subject? Who or what is the sentence about? The sentence is about Beth. And what is Beth doing? In the sentence, it is ate the pie. That's past tense, means she already did it, right? So we're going to underline the subject once and the predicate twice. So you have an underline once for subject, underlined twice for predicate. All right. Beth and Joe walked and ran. What's the subject? Who is my sentence about? It's about Beth and Joe. What's the predicate? What were Beth and Joe doing? Walked and ran. So Beth and Joe are example of compound subjects, and walked and ran are examples of compound predicates. That just means that there's more than one. I could say Beth ran, or I could say Joe walked, but instead I have Beth and Joe walked and ran. Next up, we're going to talk about our next story in our Sir Gus Reader, and it's called The Boat Trip. And we can use the table of contents to help us figure out what chapter or what story comes next. So our last story, we read the story called Fire. And today's story is called The Boat Trip. When I look inside my table of contents, I find Chapter 6, The Boat Trip, begins on page 56. Remember, Sir Gus does not like water. Sir Gus is afraid of lots of things, and water is one of them. So what do you think a boat ride might feel like for Sir Gus? Do you think he would like it, or do you think he would not like it? Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. I agree. If he's afraid of water, he's probably not going to like a boat too much. So this is a tricky word because the A sounds like aw. It doesn't follow a rule because remember, tricky words are rule breakers. So this word water is going to show up in our story today. We will probably come across words that you haven't seen before, but you have lots of knowledge inside your brain to help you with that. You can use your word skills. You can use your word skills as in the sounds and spellings that we've practiced from our consonant flip chart and our vowel flip chart. You can chunk into syllables, and you can also use your context clues or use the sentence to help you figure out the meaning and to determine your correct pronunciation. So some of the spellings that you're going to come across today, the first one are words that make the A sound, spelled A consonant E. This is also magic E. We have tail, grateful, bravery, and waves. And then we have our good old bud schwa over here. This upside down E is our schwa that says Remember, tight shoulders and then you say This word says float. Remember, we have about, attack. Float is our word for today. So our vocabulary in our story, The Boat Trip, the first word says utterly. Say the word utterly. If someone says utterly, they mean absolutely or completely. Symbol of his bravery. It says the large red robe represents and shows everyone that Sir Gus is brave. Is Sir Gus actually brave? I don't know about that. And then the last word is set sail. If you set sail, it means that you are traveling by boat. So we're going to read carefully to sound out some unfamiliar words. And I want you to think about what kinds of adventures or troubles a person might encounter when they're out at sea on a boat. Okay, encounter means run into. The Boat Trip. Word of how brave Sir Gus had driven away the troll went across the kingdom. The tale soon reached King Alfred. The king was so grateful to Sir Gus that he changed his name from Sir Gus the Fearless to Sir Gus the Utterly Fearless. Sir Gus was given a splendid but rather large red robe to keep as a symbol of his bravery. To celebrate the defeat of the troll, the king invited his knights to go hunting with him. 11 of the knights rode off with the king to hunt for red deer and wild pigs. Sir Gus, however, did not go. He did not like hunting. It was far too dangerous. Brave, right? Rather than go hunting, Sir Gus took a long, relaxing bath. Then he went to the kitchen to see what tasty foods were being prepared. The next day, King Alfred decided to go sailing on his boat. He insisted that all his knights go with him. And so, right after lunch, the knights made their way south to the coast. One by one, they stepped onto the king's boat. Sir Gus wanted to tell the king that he did not like boats or water. In fact, the two together made him very sick indeed. But he didn't want to upset the king, so he joined the party. It was a nice afternoon when the boat set sail. The sun shone, the water was calm, there was not a cloud in the sky. The king appeared on deck. "Isn't this wonderful?" he said. "Sir Gus, I trust you're having a wonderful time." "Yes, indeed I am," replied Sir Gus, lying. Then, late in the afternoon, the sky darkened. The wind began to blow. Large waves began to beat on the side of the boat. Sir Gus began to feel ill. The king was alarmed. He and 11 of the knights had to fight to keep the boat afloat in the strong winds and rising waves. As for Sir Gus, he was so sick he no longer cared if the boat floated or sank. He couldn't stand up. He lay in the bottom of the boat, moaning and groaning. And that is why no one saw the large pirate ship approaching. It's an appropriate time to say, dun dun dun! So that will be our next story that we read is about the pirate ship. Remember that in tomorrow's lesson you have your spelling test, so you should make sure that you are studying your spelling words for your test for our next lesson. Okay? Learning targets. We practiced reading contraction words. Yes, we did. We identified subject and predicates inside sentences. Yes, we did. And we read the story called The Boat Trip. On your Google form today, you're going to practice both contractions and you're going to reread The Boat Trip and answer some comprehension questions about it. Other than that, you are all set for lesson number 9. You did a great job, and we will see you for our next lesson.